Okay, welcome back to the Jiu-Jitsu Mindset. My name's Pete Deeley, and the divine continues to bring me just extraordinary human beings, and this week is no exception. But before I introduce you to him, I do need to remind you that Submission Coffee is still not classified as a performance-enhancing drug, so you can go to the Jiu-Jitsu Mindset and get your subscription to Submission Coffee, and we will be glad to send it to you every month. So today, Professor Eddie Kone, thank you for spending time with me. I've been anticipating our conversation for some time, done a little bit of research to learn the scale and scope of your relationship to Jiu-Jitsu. I need about 15 hours to ask you all the questions I'd like to, but I'm going to be respectful and try and do this in an hour. So thank you, sir, for making time for me.
Man, it's my pleasure. Thanks for letting me come on to this great podcast that you have, the Jiu-Jitsu Mindset. I'm a fan. Had a
Uh,
look at some of the stuff. Like I said, was a little intimidated when I saw the guests on there, but we're here. Intimidated, but we're here.
Well, all those guys called me and said, "Oh, you know what? We're intimidated that Professor Eddie's coming on it. Like, oh man, he's going to be the best one." That's very generous, and I appreciate the fact that you've given us a look at prior to this.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
It's been in my kind of trying to learn about you prior to talking to you. It's been a long, interesting journey, and a lot of passion and energy and focus over all of this. And I consider it to be an experience of high achievingness, or like excellence of virtuosity, which requires all this energy and discipline. So if I roll back the clock and I ask you, like, well, if you had poured that in a different direction, if not jujitsu, where do you land? How are you different?
Yeah, interesting. I think I've always knew I would be an educator of some
Mm,
sort. I don't know what. There was always something there
yeah,
that I gravitated towards. I don't know too much less than jujitsu. This is a journey that has gone back
yeah.
to '96, so 30 years, March 12th, '96, so a long time. But I think God knows what I would. I was a wild kid,
Were you?
so God knows, God knows what would have happened. Um, Yeah, when you kind of asked me that, I was thinking like, what would I have done? How if the clock went back, what
Yeah,
would I have done? Probably something around the sportive aspect. I'm very competitive. I like to teach. Um, so yeah, something down that line. Maybe a teacher. I don't know.
yeah.
I really don't know. It's a good question, but I have no idea. Um,
That's fair. I mean, I think it's interesting, particularly, as you're 30 years into doing anything to think it for me, the things that I've been at for that long, I mean, are a part of me in some way, shape, or form, sometimes in a positive way,
mm,
sometimes not. Your wildness as a kid, were you wild and uh like were you a wild kid looking for scraps out there in the world, or were you just
yeah,
yeah, were you
the
out there?
same story as most of the guys. I think I was the guy who was, not as big as everyone else, not as filled out as everyone else, but had a chip on the shoulder. Always wanted to prove something.
Right,
Um, Always wanted to prove, that big guy could be beaten up.
right,
All kinds of crazy stuff, and going to karate schools and judo schools and learning as a student.
right,
But then being told, "Hey, you're hitting too hard," like all of this wild stuff, and people would hit me, and I would take it really personal.
right.
um, so ego driven, egocentric.
Hmm.
Um, but I think as you grow and mature, it changes, and I had to go through that to arrive
Yeah,
at this,
right.
because people that I meet nowadays that are like that, I just laugh. I just think, man, that's exactly how I used to
You
be. And
you
here's the right way to steer them.
yes, right.
It's kind of like I was meant to go through that. So those I encounter now, I can understand where that's coming from.
You can be a guide.
Um,
Wait,
yeah, to some degree.
was the motion towards learning to fight in martial arts happen in a pivot? Like did a fight go bad and you're like, I got to be a better fighter? Or was it, I just like this and I'm attracted to it, so I'm going to do this? I mean, March 12th, 1996, that seems like it's a very specific pivot. So,
Very specific, yeah.
so preceding that, like, was the decision to make that pivot obvious to you, or is it only obvious in hindsight?
I think it was obvious then. Um, just to give context to why I believe I was like that was, so I grew up in, I guess you call them orphanages, children's homes we call them here, without parents, lived homeless for a while, went through the usual um, thing where I would be sleeping rough on the streets and have to protect myself from the environment. So
Right.
I guess it was the paranoia of many things happening, but the things that did happen. So that scrappy mentality was just ingrained. And I think when you grow up like that, you believe you can scrap with anyone. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. I had no martial arts experience, and
Right.
a right hand to someone's face would usually do the job. But then, you know, you start to grow a little bit and you think, hey, I should really, oh, that's interesting, that Kung Fu stuff, that karate stuff.
Yeah.
And it really was like the UFC, like, oh, I wonder what would happen if I fought a karate guy. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that was my whole thing going into these schools. But I always knew in those schools during that time of training that there was something there that was a bit bullshido. There was something there that was missing.
Hmm.
Um, And I think the couple of scraps I had in there, I was thrown out of a couple of schools for being too aggressive, too rough. Um, the couple of things that detoured me from martial arts was that this is meant to be a martial art. The guys are meant to be tough. Um, and then scrapping in the street was two totally different things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think ego definitely got the better of me. And then I can remember going into a Thai boxing gym,
Hmm.
and one of my first sparring sessions, they did no shin guard sparring, no
Whoa.
shin guards.
That's right out of the
And
gate. Oh my goodness.
well, I think that was because I was super aggressive to those guys, and
Oh,
the
okay.
instructor was
Okay.
like, "Look, you can't kick the head, but you can definitely kick the legs." And I didn't walk for 2 or 3 days after. I
I'm
remember I was
sure.
limping
Yeah.
around, um, and that's what kept me going back. That sort of drive to that feeling of pain.
Interesting.
Um, very weird, very weird. Yeah, very weird time in my life. And then after that, when I saw the UFC, that was the pivotal point right there. That was something. And when you asked about going into a martial arts gym and being turned over, that happened to me multiple times, but it was all confined within rules. So I knew they weren't going to hurt me.
Yeah.
Okay, they could hit me, but they're never going to beat me to a bloody mess.
Right.
So I think it was a bit of liberty taking on my side when I would go in there and try to have a rock with these guys. And then the pivotal point for me in martial arts was definitely Brazil, visiting Brazil,
Right.
and when my journey started. But before that, it was just wild, swinging for the fences. Whatever happens, happens, and that was it. So it was from that catalyst, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it makes perfect sense. And did you did you have this internal locus of control as just who you are, or did somebody teach you a bit of that control? Because given what you just described to me, there's a lot of ways to spiral in negative
Sure.
ways. I mean, the violence
I,
on the
I,
streets
I've,
has a lot of levels, but violence on the streets when you're homeless is a different, in my opinion, and my
sure,
experience and observation, because now we're talking about like, hey, you got no place to retreat to. So you're in a fight
sure.
and you may literally be in a fight for your life.
Yeah, I think there are two things there. I wasn't a tough guy by any means. When I said it was all ego and bravado, it really was. And the
Right?
times that I did have to engage in fights, it was, you know, 10 seconds of insanity. And
Yeah.
street fights are an explosion and then it stops. It's not
Right.
like,
Yeah.
um, and so I'd always devised ways that I could get close to the person and hit them before they hit me, or have enough distance that they couldn't hit me and I could run away if I had to.
Right.
So I devised them methods in my mind. When you talked about someone teaching me this stuff, I think for everyone in life has a leader.
Yeah.
Um, Even though I head the academy, my own academy, and I teach my students,
Right.
um, at some point we go to someone else who
Yeah.
can enhance us as a leader, right? So we're never, no matter who we are, we have someone. And I just think there that that and I thought about this as well a while back. I'd always had mentor figures in my life.
Mm,
I just didn't realize they were leading me.
interesting.
So, and now it's the same thing. My students have leader figures in their life
Right.
who are leading them through jujitsu.
Right.
But I still go and learn. I'm forever a student, but I still go and learn from leaders,
It,
people that lead other. So they were always there. I just didn't recognize them.
you must have had an openness, like to me, it's a personal strength to be able to be open to being led at all, whether you're cognizant of it or not. Because I think the stubbornness that comes with an insistence on it's my way is a way to really stunt your growth. And so even if you weren't cognizant
Absolutely.
of, but you were accepting the instruction, the life instruction, not just the
Yeah.
physical instruction.
I
Yeah.
think me going to those martial arts schools was looking for a father figure.
Yeah,
That's what I
makes
think it
sense.
was.
Makes
I
sense.
think I was looking for guide. I never had it.
Yeah.
13 years old, living rough on the street, running from the cops because they would always take me back to the children's homes which I'd escaped from,
Right.
or not escaped, but ran
Yeah.
away from and never
Sure.
returned. Um, Being truant from school, just being a belligerent idiot,
Hmm.
for a long time. Um, and I just think it got to a point when it was like 16, 17, 18. Now we're in adult terms.
Right.
And it was, you have to knuckle down and do stuff. And thank God, everything, every cloud has a silver lining. And I managed to find a job in a factory, which was a very low paid job. But the director, the owner of the factory, really took care of me and really showed me, or really looked after me in a sense of what I'd been searching for. And I ended up staying there for years, and we
Yeah.
ended up being really good friends. Um, and I think that was the turning point. Before that
Okay.
was just noise, nonsense, and craziness.
Right.
Um, Blaming no one but myself.
Right.
I always had options I could have gone. I just chose that option.
Right.
Um, so so yeah, very weird, very weird time when I look back.
Well, I mean, they're interesting people rarely have, boring stories about, they didn't become so fascinating by having everything work out perfectly and every decision be
Right,
the right one. So, um,
right.
when in my a gap in my like trying to prepare to talk to you is that I didn't quite understand your the motivation to go to Rio, the motivation to go to Brazil. So, like, can you talk a little bit about that? Because I'm a little light on my my research coming to that
No,
part of your life.
that's okay. So 95, I was working in this factory that we discussed. It
Right.
was a box factory. And one of the guys in there came in and said, "Man, you've got to see this stuff. There's this family from Brazil that had, kicking everyone's ass.
Right.
They were kicking kickboxers." And when he said that, I'd been doing Thai boxing a while. I was like, my ego jumped. I was like, no way, that's never gonna happen.
Right.
He was like, no, no, I'm serious. I'm serious. And he had a VHS, and it was a copy. It wasn't even an original, grainy thing.
Yeah.
So he goes, "You're going to have to come over and see this after." I was like, "Okay, great." So after work, we go see this video. And I couldn't believe what I was watching. I,
Right.
I really couldn't believe, Hoist comes out, just kicks everyone's ass, and I was like, "You got to be shitting. Like,
Right.
this is insane." And then fast forward 9 months. And again, I don't believe in accidents. I was asked to go to Rio
Okay.
with a friend of mine who was going to participate in a martial arts tournament, like it was like Thai box. Maybe it might have been like a shoot box kind of deal, like kickboxing. I was like, sure, let's go. And while we were there, I'd planned already. I'm going to find Hoist. I know he's in Brazil. I'm going to find Hoist, and et cetera, et cetera. So we end up in Rio, and the hotel we were staying, I spoke with the porter, the porter guy, and I'm like, listen, I'm looking for Hoist Gracie from the UFC. It was a, you know, where can I find? And he was like, oh, I know where they train, blah blah blah. Come with me after work. I'll meet you. We'll go there. So he takes me to this place called Botafogo in Brazil, in Rio, sorry, and uh, it's a university, or it was a university, a school, and above the school was the Gracie Academy. Now, when I went into the school, I went in. No one spoke English in there. It
Right.
was all like Portuguese. There was an American guy in there who was doing some translation, and I was like, I'm looking for Hoist, and he was like, oh, Hoist isn't here. They didn't tell me he was in LA at that time. They didn't tell
Okay.
me he was in Torrance.
Right.
So there was some old guy in there who turned out to be Helio, Gracie, Royler, Holker. Um, you know, a lot of people were in this academy.
Right.
Saulo Ribeiro, Shanji, Vinny Magali, just tons of icons.
Yeah.
I had no idea, zero idea.
Right.
So you go upstairs, you go into the room, into the academy. There's like as you walk in, there's like a reception. As you go up the stairs, lots of little pictures. Oh, welcome. Yeah, you can change, train. And that was the evening class.
Hmm.
Um, and I believe it was Royler teaching at that time. But when I went in, it looked like they were preparing for something. Yeah. And it was Royler's MMA stuff. So I put my bag down, and the guy was like, "Oh, you striking this and that." I was like, "Oh yeah, a little bit." And my first my first victim of the night was Royler himself. Imagine.
It's
I
your
know who this
first
guy
time.
is.
Right.
I know about karate. I've been to
Sure.
karate. Remember, I've been to
Yeah.
karate schools. I've been to right.
Yeah.
Oh,
You
you could
probably
do
feel
whatever you
pretty
want.
accomplished, right? Like,
Yeah, I'm,
sure. Yeah. Yeah.
feeling jacked. Um, yeah, upside down, round and round, rear naked choke, arm lock. Didn't know what happened. The first time he tapped me, I kind of looked around to see if anyone was watching. No, I'm battered an eyelid. It's normal to them.
Right.
But this happened three or four times.
Right.
So the guys who I were with for the kickboxing were like, "Oh, don't let him get on top of you. Don't let him do this to you." And I just couldn't stop him.
Sure.
That very night, I hung up my gloves.
That's it.
That very night,
Right.
that was it. And then they told me, "Oh, that's Hoist's brother. That's his father."
Yeah. Yeah.
The old guy looked like the janitor.
Right.
That's what I thought. Who's this guy? Like, I don't know. I
Sure.
didn't know who was who. Um,
That's so
and
great.
then fast forward a few weeks, few months. Um, Man, it was insane. It was, you know, because there was no YouTube, no
Right.
internet,
Right. Right. Right.
no instructional DVDs,
Yes.
nothing,
Yeah.
nothing at all. And I had a previous experience to that in London with a guy called Shen Morales, I think his name was, at London Bridge, because I knew it as Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. Gray like the color, sea like the ocean,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Jiu-Jitsu Gracie. I didn't put it together as a thing until I seen that video. And there was a school that opened in London, and there was a sign on the door, and the sign said "Crazy Jiu-Jitsu." It was spelled "Crazy Jiu-Jitsu."
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't even know if this guy was a black belt or whatever. He was wearing the garb, and we
Yeah.
went
Yeah.
in there and we trained. Oh, that's you know. Um, but once I was in Brazil, once I trained, and coming back, I still didn't know the magnitude of these guys. I just loved it. I just loved the environment, the vibe of the guys there. Um, I came back, and then that was it. I got hooked. I was out there. So Hoyler gave me a very nice testimonial a few years ago, which is on my Instagram, when he's talking about Ed has always been out here with my family and with
Yeah.
my dad and my brothers taking lessons. It's a very nice testimonial. Um, but no, I was hooked. And from then on, that was it for me. When you see something like that, Hoyler was in his prime. All these
Sure.
guys were in their prime. But when you see the old man get on the mat and do what he was doing and command, like, it was unbelievable. Like, The
Yeah.
eye was so sharp, and the clinch was what interested me. How they stopped strikers. The
Yeah.
clinch was amazing, like what
Yeah.
I'd learned.
Yeah.
You know,
It's funny. The clinch is an elusive idea for me, particularly, in the way that in my little group of folks, people's hips being back and trying to figure out how to learn that is something I find particularly elusive. I want to I want to make a comment. I'm just ask you to react to it because
sure.
when I'm listening to you tell this story, somebody who gr knows what it's like, maybe not in the same manner to the same extent even, but to grow up not having everything you need, right? So you're working out of a scarcity situation. And
Sure.
one of the things that I'm uh, captivated by is the amount of imagination that you had to do what you did. Because leave your own country, that's a that's an act of imagination. Where if
Yeah.
your people, we talk about it in terms of blocks. I'm here on the block. I don't even leave this neighborhood. Never mind this town, this country. And so when I hear you, your instincts, your imagination, your willingness to kind of think, my world is not this small. If I go be an explorer, there are other lands, so to
Mm,
speak, internal and external to go, and then to be so open to it, and then to recognize that, oh, I'm in a special place. Like you didn't react, oh, this guy's getting lucky. Like if we were in the streets, no way this, I mean, there's a whole bunch of other
and I think
like,
that was the turning. That thing was the right question. If we were in the street, would it have been different? And the idea was absolutely no, because I'm from that era. I'm
right,
from that place. So I knew I was vulnerable. I knew I'd done other styles of judo, like I'd seen
sure.
judo, and nothing prepared me
Yeah,
for that.
this was
I
your
was ill
brand,
prepared.
yeah,
Yeah, and as far as getting up and leaving, remember I had nothing here, no reason to be here.
yeah, right,
I slept in a car for a while. Like literally had nothing to be here. And then I remember I had savings from the job that I was doing, and I just went out there, and I was an overstayer for a while. Um, and I just loved it. Loved the culture. The people were so beautiful, beautiful smiles.
yeah,
You know, very nice people. They took me as their own.
yeah,
Um, and I always wanted to be a fighter. I always wanted to be that guy. So going out there and being in that environment where it wasn't Bushido, and I'm not saying that every martial art is Bushido,
no, I get it, yeah,
it
yeah,
doesn't work,
no, no,
but being in that environment where it was a kill or be killed
yeah,
environment,
yeah,
I loved it. I thrived on that. And I spoke to the kickboxing guys, and I was like, "Why don't you guys try it?" And they were like, "Oh no, no, it's not for us." And the telling thing for me was the instructor that came with us still dismissed it. He'd say to me, "Oh, yeah, but they would never do that to me. But
yeah,
why have
yeah,
you sent me in there to do
yeah,
that? Why don't you
right,
go in there and
yeah,
prove me wrong,
yeah, right,
or prove it wrong, right?" So,
yeah,
and they didn't do it with malice. They didn't do it with violence. That it was Hoyler did it with a smile on his face,
right, yeah.
and I tried my hardest.
When you talk about the smiles and the like, it, um, listening to like Rickson talk about being on the mats as a child, and listening to uh, some other, talk, even talking to Pedro Sauer and a couple, like the it's an interesting vector of, like he talked about being a kid that they didn't bring the kids in and, hey, we're training you to be a warrior. We bring the kids in to play with them, into that this playful beginning, introduction to the art. I don't know. It seems to me important in how it then, as it fully matures, your relationship to it. And by way of contrast, I think, like, let's take the movie 300, the notion of like a Spartan, right? And the Spartan is, you're you're beating out the gentleness of the child, and you're forming the warrior through hardness and you know relentless conflict that only you need to survive it, versus like the introduction of this martial art, which gets to be proven out to be in the UFC the most effective, having a different beginning to it. And maybe you don't agree with that. I mean, maybe it's not important, but that smiling sort of the lack of need to they're imposing their will on you, but it's not with the intent of belittling you. Like there's still that communal feeling. I've never been lucky in that most of all of my training experiences have been communal. Like, hey, yes, we are in conflict, but it's only to learn and to experiment, explore. Nobody's broken my arm, like nobody, even when they could have.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. I think it's jiu-jitsu is a very, very deep spiritual art. I think it's more spiritual than people acknowledge.
Yes.
And I think that's been lost over the time. I think that's definitely being faded out as the new generations of grappler comes in. And I think there are schools even till today where if you're not the hardest, toughest,
Sure.
most resilient guy on the mat, then you're not welcome, or you're not treated as a welcomed
Hmm.
member of that tribe. You can have two ways to do that. That way is not for everyone. That's why the Spartan was only 300.
Right, right,
That's why there wasn't 5 million.
right,
That's why
right.
there wasn't 5,000. Um, the other way, where we talk about the smiling, the culture,
Hmm.
in order to take people apart, we must know how to put them back together again.
It's
You, you
interesting.
know that,
Yeah.
that's the ethos behind it. And I think you can only smash someone or something so long, and so that gives them a time scale on how long they're going to be around
Yes.
jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. Good point.
Um, and I think the Gracies figured this out early on. I think Helio's side of the family figured this out. And we could definitely see a contrast between both sides.
Hmm.
Helio, Carlson, Carlos, we can definitely see a contrast. I think Rickson embodies all of that.
Yeah.
I think Royler embodies all of that. Out of that side of the family, I'm very fortunate to have trained with the first generation, Helio,
Hmm.
not Carlos, but Helio, all of his sons, every single one of them. Um, the third generation, the second generation, third generation, and I'm very proud to have. I guess they're the fifth generation coming to my seminars of Gracies and
Yeah.
learning.
Yeah. Yeah.
So nothing really changed, I don't think, with that side of it. But I think they figured out early on that if we want this to be a forever thing,
Right.
then we can't do that. We
Yes.
we can't we can't prepare um, for that moment. And I think that's where the self defense differentiates from self offense, which are two
Hmm.
different things.
Yeah.
Where a lot of jujitsu is highly offensive, like offense, offense, offense,
Right. Right.
overwhelm them with offense, and then when you do that, then they're going to shell up and you win. But I think Elio's side was it's okay to be massively offensive, but focus on the defense.
Right.
Great boxers do that.
Hmm.
Tyson was massively offensive.
Right.
Mike Tyson was massively offensive. But when you meet a boxer versus a fighter, the boxer has good footwork. He can be
Yeah.
defensive. He has a
Right.
great guard. Muhammad Ali
Well, yeah, I was
is
gonna
an
say like for my age, the rope a dope with George Foreman is a great
exactly
example.
right. So there you would have, in my opinion, my humble opinion, Elio's side of the family and another side of jiu-jitsu, which is just offense. And
Yeah.
I think that's really important. And I think they figured that out and they figured it out well. And even till today, I think they're doing the same thing. Some of it some of the stuff I see, I'm, okay, but
Right.
majority of it, I'm okay with.
Yeah, anytime something grows, in jujitsu's rapidly growing experience, I mean, and as it does, then people are going to say, well, this growth is okay and this growth, and pick a side. I mean, it's just the nature
Yeah.
of
But
it.
do you know what? I think you have to pick a side. I think you have to stick your flag in the ground and say, hey, this is what I stand for and this is what I
Yeah,
represent.
without a doubt.
Uh,
Right,
it doesn't mean we put blinkers on and we block our ears and we don't hear and see it. I'm not saying that at all.
right,
But I think jiu-jitsu is so vast now and it has so many tribes and so many pockets and everyone knows what's best and what's great and this and that.
right,
I have zero care for what you're doing over there. Go over there, do your thing, be
right.
happy.
Yes.
Be happy. Just don't don't throw mud at the guys over here doing their thing.
It- yeah,
And that's where the problems start.
right.
That's where these silly things start to happen. And you know, it just gets. I'm not in the community in the UK. I'm not in the jiu-jitsu community. I don't choose to be. I don't want to be.
Right,
I'm part of jiu-jitsu. I'm part of what it is.
right.
But I find the community to be so backward in its thinking. I have guys who come and train with me and who tell me, "Oh, please don't tell anyone I've come and trained here. Please don't tell my school I've
Yeah,
come and
that's
like, please don't tell my
yeah,
instructor." Like madness,
right,
madness. Like get over yourself.
right,
You
right.
know, and I just think that's not what it was meant to be. That's not what I understand it to be.
Well, that's, I mean, a great blessing to me is to have come to it at the time that I did, because like in terms of ego, at 50, I mean, that I walked in, everybody is younger, stronger, better, even though I think of myself as an athletic person, but I mean, I'm a 55-year-old athletic person, and that is a different creature than, you know, my first, when I got my blue belt, like the week after I got it, I went and did a competition. And it's probably obvious, but just to, like when I say competition, I mean like we went to a high school gym, we had a fun experience, right? But it's hard to find blue belts that are in their 50s because people don't start. So I wound up in the 30-year-old something. And just the
Right?
body composition alone, it was so, as I got my butt whooped, in the couple of matches that I had, it was just so obvious to me, as much as I might not like to think it, the body just changes naturally, and there's no reason to think otherwise. But
So that answers one of the questions I think you were asking me at the beginning about competition.
well, I was going to go to that next, like because in these flag planting things, sometimes that gets like, well, let's resolve it on the mats type of,
On the mat.
and that's, I'm okay with the friction as it relates to let's try and explore different things. The mudslinging thing troubles me, and I, you know, but it troubles me, I guess, as an idea. I'm well past the age that it will ever make a difference to me, so I'm out of that. So yeah, please, in terms of competition, how does it play in for those of us who are never going to be world champions, the ordinary,
Me too. Me
well,
too. I'm not a world champion. Never have been. Never. Could never do what the kids today are doing to become world champions. These guys are athletes, and they
hmm
deserve to be paid correctly. They deserve to be. They deserve those titles, and I just think it's sad that they don't get that recognition
hmm
or they don't get the payment they deserve. Um, as far as competition goes, I've competed in jiu-jitsu, not at any great level. I've won some, I've lost some. I've fought in MMA. I've done this cycle of things, and the reason I did that cycle wasn't to stick a badge on myself and say, "Oh, look, I've done this and I've done that." If I wanted to teach what I, if I wanted to teach what I practice and
hmm
preach to everyone, it has to work. I have to know from that perspective, like from being in there and being under stress and feeling these things, how it works. So I think everyone at every belt should compete
hmm
at least once.
Right.
but it has to be in the remit of, safety. They have to be able to, you don't want to
Mhm.
send a guy our age an event where they get placed in a 30-year-old, and
Yeah.
and before you know it, you're injured.
Hmm.
I had an experience in 2013. I entered into a tournament in the UK. When I entered, they said, we don't have anyone in your weight division. You're going to have to go into the open weight. Everyone was over 100 kilos.
Mm.
I walk around soaking wet, 73 kilos,
Yeah.
74 kilos. Um, but I did it. I just went in,
Yeah.
and that's on YouTube. You can find that. That's a real thing. Uh, was it fun? Yeah, it was great. I had Roger, Gracie, and Braulio Estima reffing my match.
Oh my goodness.
Um, I got to practice. I got to use one of Royler's famous takedowns on someone,
Nice.
um, and have some fun. So,
Yeah.
um, and medal, which was great.
Yeah.
So that was fun. I'm not an avid competitor. I've never been an avid competitor. It's just never driven me.
Sure.
I've just never been that motivated to go and prepare for that. Like I said, the kids who do that, the people that do that, fair play, amazing.
Yeah.
They're amazing. They deserve everything they get. It's just not my forte. It's never
Right.
been my forte.
And I'm with you in terms of to get your toe in the water, to have a moment of conflict, like let's see outside the familiar. Let's give you at least a day when you're outside the familiar to do what you've been
Mm,
working on. I think um, I think that echoes outside of the mats really strongly, when you're in other circumstances and it's a stress inoculation. As you say, under the parameters that it's a safe
sure.
situation. We got a big catalog to draw upon when we talk about your roles and fights and competitions and MMA bouts. And I want to ask like your lizard brain, I mean, when I ask you what's your most memorable one, what's the one that you don't have to think about? You're like, you know what? It's this one.
Yeah, I think the most memorable fight that I had, competition
Or
based.
yeah, you could pick any of the fights in any
Yeah,
circumstances.
I think the most memorable for me was I was putting a we prepared an athlete. I don't like to use the word fighter. We prepared an athlete to compete in the MMA arena. Very capable individual, um, ferocious guy, very young. Um, the day 2 days before the fight, he breaks his arm.
Oh,
Um, so in the realms of being open and honest and upfront, I went to the promoter and explained to him. Didn't phone him, just drove to where they were and said, "Listen, this has happened." The other camp was there because the hotels and all the rest of it. And said, "This is what's happened. He's broken his arm. Really sorry, it's not going to happen." And the opposing fighter got right in my face, and there was a lot of pushing and shoving, and I just said, "To hell with it. I'll take the fight. I'll fight you." Um, so I made the weight the day before,
okay.
and this again is on YouTube. This fight is on YouTube. I made the weight. Very tall guy. I was light anyway, and the fighters were cutting weight. I made the weight. Um, walked to the arena in my gi. Walked to the cage in my gi, my kimono, my black belt. Went into the cage and triangled the guy. You know, um, but it was just a moment that,
Right.
that's not a hero story or anything like that. But that's
Sure.
a
Oh yeah.
memorable thing because that kind of took me back to childhood,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Right.
that kind of that intensity when he was in, like,
Yeah.
my ego jumped out, and
Sure.
everything I thought I'd left behind as a martial artist hadn't been left behind.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was very alive, and it lived in there. And that came out, and that was it. And I can remember in the fight, I got his arm on the cage. I took him down, got his arm, and I thought, I'm going to break your arm. In my head,
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
this, I'm going to, it was completely ego driven again,
Sure.
and the guy picks me up and slams me on the canvas, and transition into the triangle. And then, yeah, it was all ego driven. But that kind of really solidified to me, like, whatever that is lives in all of us. We all have it. We can all
Sure.
draw it out. And I saw this post that said something along the lines of, Um, a dangerous man, and I'm not, but a dangerous man has these things under control.
Yeah.
And I read that quote a few years later, and I was like, wow, that is a real thing.
Yeah.
You're keeping that aggression under control. And that has dragged through childhood to where I am now. That's
Yeah.
dragged all the way. I just came out of that moment,
Yeah.
which was insane. But that was very memorable. Um, and the fact, that I went to the cage just 10 years ago,
Yeah. Yeah.
2013, I believe it was. maybe 2010, I can't remember, in my kimono,
Right.
you know, reminiscent of what the Gracies used to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, just to show that I'm here for the flag of jiu-jitsu, not just for me. There's something bigger than me,
Yes. Yes.
and I'm here representing something bigger than me.
Right. Well,
Um,
plus I'm
but
sure
yeah,
the relationship to the athlete, I mean, that sounds like there's a lot of layers to that moment. I mean,
sure.
you got, hey, that's my guy. Like we're not going to have that type of disrespect. Jujitsu, because as I listen to your stories, like I think about a time where a group of a group of boys, like these four boys beat me up as a like a 12-year-old. And
Wow.
they weren't like adults, but they weren't 12. They were like 15, 16. And then I think about that experience. Like it was such a helpless experience. There was, I was a littler kid to begin with, and there was nothing I could do about it. But the what it gave me, particularly at the age, was a sense of like survivability. Like it didn't even make me feel like, oh, I'm a tough guy to have lived through it. I just felt like I can have a little less fear in times of conflict, and I think like that I was mugged as a younger kid when in the city of New York with my aunt and grandmother, and it was another helpless type of experience, but one that I survived. And so when you talk about like, well, in that moment different pieces of your life fit together and then are expressed, the fact that it's under control I think makes the parts of you that got hurt as a kid and made that ego, but that you're able to be an adult and control it. When I was talking to Professor Sanjay Barrow on this podcast, he talked about like there are times you got to bring out that wild gorilla, and in its
Right.
time, to do it, but that only
Guy's a
belongs.
savage.
Yeah, but he's a
He's a
sweetheart
savage.
too, right? I mean, you talk to
He
him,
is. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
he's an intimidating human being, just even at
Yeah.
repose, even at just being relaxed with you. There's this sense of like this
Yeah.
this is a
Yeah.
you know anyway, it just feels to me as a mark of maturity to be able to integrate the parts of you that were wild as a kid, but it did give you something too, and in that moment,
Sure.
you're able to bring it all
Yeah, sure.
together. I think is
You can
interesting.
call upon it. And I think, now it's a lot different, when you have a family, when you have children,
Yeah,
when life takes you in a different way. Um, and without having that kind of competitive thing that we always had, like in Brazil, we were always on the mat.
yeah, yeah,
So you knew you knew your capabilities, you knew
right,
what you were capable of. When you come back to England, and I still think jiu-jitsu here is very embryonic. It's still growing. It's
okay,
still not reached its high point. Um, Although it's been here forever. We have some great guys here, but we have Roger here and those guys, but there is only one Roger. We
yeah,
we don't have the wave of guys like coming out of the States
yeah,
and that are just hordes of these like elite guys coming through.
right,
Um, and in the midst of all of that noise and those guys emerging, you have guys like me and Hickson's guys just in the background flying our flag, with the
yeah,
stake in the ground, and we're here, because now for me it's all about legacy. Now it's all about I found a home
right,
with where I am. I truly have found a home. I found a group of like-minded individuals. We're all accountable to each other. We all hold each other accountable.
yeah,
We're all singing from the same sheet, and we're all moving in the same direction.
right,
Um, and I think for a very long time, I never had that.
Right.
Because when it's easy to be over here and across the water, across the pond, and you're forgotten, and you're holding on to a strand of that kimono, which is like,
Yeah.
man, this is where I am, you know. Um, and so yeah, that is another part of that. I think that fighting mentality, that for the love of war and for the love of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, and proving that it was wrong. And I can remember having a conversation with Royler. He was like, "You don't need to fight anymore. We've done it all.
Right.
We've proved it. We've done it. So you just need to teach and carry on doing what you don't need to do that anymore." And you know, it was just one of those things. Um, but yeah, I think about it a lot. It's been wild, man. It's one of those things, and I'm still here. I'm so grateful. I'm still here. I'm still experiencing
Yeah.
these things.
Well,
Mm,
from an outsider's perspective, and the crew that you're talking about, I mean, I may have had conversations with, with people in that crew, and um, it feels to me like there is a coalescence of people looking to preserve something specific, and see that specific thing in the same way, which I think is difficult, right? I mean, you have a point of view, if you're, whatever we want to call Rickson's jiu-jitsu, and whatever we may want to call those things, it seems as though there's a similar agreement on what does it mean to preserve that legacy among a group, which to me is a special thing to be happening right now, that I think will make sure that that goes into the future. Everything evolves, everything changes. I think
sure.
I think it's unwise to think this is going to get hardened and preserved in something specific.
It-
However, there are
yeah.
principles that I think you guys will make sure are going to be in the world for,
Mm. Hickson is a incredibly special human.
yeah.
And I'm talking from a place. I don't know if you've met Hickson, or I
No,
don't
I
know
have not.
your
Yeah,
background.
yeah,
Um, a lot of people talk about Hickson from the point of never meeting him. You know, they
right,
talk
yeah,
about, you know, Hickson, this, the naysayers, this and that. I'm probably, I think, as now, the newest kid on the block with the
hmm,
crew, with the guys.
right,
Um, I may have more experience in the jiu-jitsu world, but as far as being around Hickson with the
hmm,
guys that are there, I think I'm the new kid on the block. You know, I still think that's the thing. And they're all incredible. All of Hickson's guys right now are incredible.
yeah,
Um, I'm not a Rickson Gracie black belt.
hmm,
I don't speak for Rickson. I don't represent Rickson in any way.
right, right,
And to my knowledge, none of us do. But I can tell you this: the past, I think this is the second year of me being around the guys in Rickson. They've treated me with nothing but courtesy and respect,
hmm,
and love, and not looked at me as the new kid on the block. They're literally like, nope, we're all,
yeah,
and that's incredible. To me, the belt rank means nothing.
hmm,
We just many in body and one in mind,
yeah,
and we're kind of moving towards the vision that the master has. You know,
right,
um, and when I tell you that from my own experience, um, Hickson is a very special human to me. He has showed himself as that special person
hmm,
in our private time,
sure,
with private things and stuff he's done that he hasn't had to do,
hmm,
which I'm forever grateful for
right,
him, and Cassia, his wife.
hmm,
Um, James Driscoll is
right,
another amazing special human.
yeah,
The guys embraced me as a brother, like from day one.
yeah,
Um, Clay, Chris, all of the guys that you see, um, they're amazing humans, and I have nothing but admiration and respect. I'm a fan of all of those guys.
yeah,
Um, and I think what's so special about Hickson is, from my perspective, Rickson's not teaching me anything which is new
Hmm.
or or, or intricate.
Hmm.
What's absolutely insane and mind blowing is the details that he gives, how his eye is so sharp, how
Hmm.
he can take the most basic fundamental position that you have and show you that it's not a fundamental, you're missing out
Right.
the key components of fundamental positions. Um, it's very difficult to put the finger on what it is and how he does it,
It's invisible.
you know. And it sure is. And I think through the whole group, James is around him the most, and I think if anyone, you know, get those guys out. If you're interested in understanding what that is, those guys, they have it nailed. You know, those guys are incredible. But Rickson is a very special human being. I've got a lot of love and time for
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
Um, and they've embraced me from the beginning. Now I'm not a gatekeeper for anyone. People are constantly asking, you know, how do I get a private with Rickson? How do
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
I reach out to the guy? You know,
Right. Right.
reach out to his team, reach out to Rickson. Um, I'm very fortunate to be on the in
Right.
with the guys, and you know, like I said, I'm the last one that you know
Yeah. And
that came in.
yeah, and I'm always careful, like, because I've spoken with James and Scott and Chris
James
and
is just,
Jane. Yeah, I
they're all
mean,
amazing
they're
guys. They're all
extraordinary human
amazing.
beings. I mean, they're very good with me, right? I mean, who am I to come speak with? And they've been terrific with me both in our conversations and then afterwards when I'm saying, well, who else
Yeah.
should I be speaking with? And I'm trying to be careful not to dwell when I ask you guys anything that's related to Rickson, just because I feel like it needs to be respected as private for you guys as much as anything else. So I don't,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I can talk about, you know, what how he teaches me, because I my first encounter with him was actually at his house, at Hickson's house. Like, I've known Rickson for years, been
okay,
to seminars, seen him at the academies.
yeah,
Um, always had that kind of it's everyone is
sure, yeah,
Rickson,
yeah,
you know. Um, traveled to see him in multiple places, but being up close and personal with Rickson, a gem that happened with me and Rickson was like, I'm not athletic anymore. I'm not this. I'm diminishing. And he was talking to me about a really deep conversation.
right.
And I said to Rickson, I said, with all of that said, I think I'm seeing the best Rickson. I said, I think I'm seeing the best Rickson. And he looks at me in complete Rickson style, hands on his knees, and he goes, I think you're right. You know, and it was,
Yeah,
you
how
know,
wonderful. Yeah, it's beautiful.
he's such an amazing guy and generous as hell with
Yeah,
his
yeah,
time. So
yeah.
generous. Um, you know, I'm going to be out there next month, hanging out with
Yeah,
Rickson and learning.
you going to
Um,
Florida? You're
yeah,
okay.
yeah. I
Yeah,
try
good
to get out
place.
there every 3 months.
Okay.
And spend time with him, and just, you know, try to share as much of what he's giving with me with those who want to learn
Yeah,
in the best way I can preserve it as possible.
right.
Uh, whether I'm doing a good or bad job of it, you know, who knows? But until Rickson says otherwise, then
Yeah.
I
Well,
guess I'm on the right track, you know,
I'm confident
or
you're on
one
the
of the
right track.
guys.
All yeah, everybody in that group is I think you can be assured that we'll just I got to be careful because I got like I could ask you so many questions for so long and I'll as to respect your time like as we head towards the final questions.
Sure.
I think we both agree there's a sort of transformative power of jujitsu, and I'm in all these years of teaching and coaching and whatnot. Much like, I was trying to speak to your lizard brain about your most memorable fight or role. If I was to say, hey, what's the what's a transformation that you observed within your student community that comes to mind as a as a story you
Yeah,
would share?
there's so many. I've taught
No
people
doubt.
who are blind, like completely blind. People recently, we have a kid who's training with us with cerebral palsy,
Oh my goodness. Yeah,
um, which which is a challenge for
sure.
him more than us, and I
Hmm.
relish that. And like I said to you prior to being here, not interested in the athletes. I'm not
Yeah,
interested
yeah,
in the guys who can and the girls who can. I'm interested in the ones who cannot,
yeah.
the guys who don't feel like they're part of a community or part of a school or part of a tribe. I think Rickson's jiu-jitsu is for them.
Right.
His jiu-jitsu is for everyone.
Hmm.
It transforms the kid with cerebral palsy. There's a video on my Instagram of this kid, this this not even poor kid, this warrior,
Right. Yes. Yes.
this this warrior that's come with just a different just in a different shape, with a different set of attributes.
Right. Right.
What a
Yeah.
warrior! What a stud that kid is. The blind jiu-jitsu isn't about what we can see; it's about what we can feel.
Hmm.
It's about being sensitive to these things, and if we can teach it through sensitivity and and touch and feel, then we're going to be better. We're going to be more astute. Training with our eyes closed is a
You're
very
right. Yeah.
important part of training. So why not? I had a really funny one in Poland. I had a guy who came to a seminar I was teaching recently with one hand.
Hmm.
He fights MMA. He actually fights MMA.
Wow.
And so we were discussing grips and anchors and how he can make these connections to the body. And he was just like, wow, this is
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
Um, where it doesn't rely on grabbing the gi. He doesn't just fight MMA, he fights in the gi and no gi.
Right.
Uh,
Wow.
and one of the things that struck me a lot like Jean-Jacques,
Hmm.
he's been born like this is a birth defect. He
Right.
knows no different.
Right.
So would he be the same grappler with that, or would it hinder his grappling ability? Would
And
he be
then
doing
that's in that
things
church. That's so fascinating. Yeah.
right? So all of the students at my academy, they're all great.
Yeah.
All of the jiu-jitsu people that come through, they all have a story. They all have some demon
Sure.
that they're having to deal with, and they find solace in jiu-jitsu on that tatami.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're changing lives all of the time, not just me, where
No,
you
no,
are,
right.
like all of us,
Yeah, the whole, yeah, the art
the
is,
whole
it's
thing.
doing its work in the world, and it's
And
it's making the
that's
world
what we
better.
can't be lost. And
Yes.
that line is what we were talking about earlier, where we pick a side. I'm on the side of jiu-jitsu, not on the side of athleticism and
Yeah.
you know steroids no, I'm on
Yeah,
the
no, no,
side of
right. Yeah.
jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, you don't have to answer the last question, but I'll ask it, and then maybe you'll come back another time if you don't want to answer. But I've asked folks, hey, if you're going to pick a superhero name for yourself as a jiu-jitsu, you can give me the who was it? It might have even been James. I think he called himself the Doodle Bug or something when he talked about the ability to protect himself
yeah,
with tight elbows. But you got one, or
yeah.
it's okay if you
I
don't.
don't have one. If
Okay.
I don't have one. I don't have one. My ego won't let me have one.
All right. Well, maybe let it marinate. Maybe you come back another time and you'll bring me this hidden superhero power you want to
For
share with
sure,
the world. We'll do
for
that.
sure.
This has been a great pleasure, and I'm so happy that you were able to find some time for me. I'm so grateful that you're willing to talk with me like this, and I hope you come back again.
No, listen, I really appreciate your time. Like I said, I don't often do these
I know.
podcasts. People,
Yeah.
I get asked. I just, um, but I appreciate your time. Thank you for having me. And I think if people have time beyond checking out your coffee that you have, what was
No,
the
yes, please
thing?
tell me. Yeah, please tell us where to find you. Yeah, tell.
Yeah. Don't check me out. Check out
Okay.
hicksongracie.com. Check
Okay,
out
very good.
Rickson, James, any of those guys, Chris. Check those guys out. They're incredible.
And
They're doing a better job than I.
they're on those guys have they spend an hour with us, each of them. So Chris, Clay, James, Scott,
Yeah.
like Jason Cruz just spent an hour with me.
Never met
He was a
Jason,
joy.
but he's incredible from what I'm
Oh,
seeing.
he's a joy. Yeah.
But yeah, check all of those guys out. And have a look at their stuff. And if you like that, check out Hickson stuff.
without a doubt. All right. Well, Professor, thank you again. This was awesome.
Appreciate it. Thank you.